Okay. Hey, Ellen.
Hey, Katie.
It's great to
How are
see you.
you?
I'm
It's
well.
been a
How are
while.
you? It's been a minute. Yeah,
It's
like
been
literally minutes.
22 hours.
And we are just popping these out like nothing, nobody's business, man. We're just like,
I'm gonna stretch this one out. It's not gonna,
we are going to stretch it out, but we've got we're going to have some back cataloged episodes. So in case we go on a little vacay or something, you guys aren't going to miss it.
where are we going?
Um, I don't know. Uh,
I'll go
Places
anywhere.
with campfires and raccoons and
Oh,
preferably not
raccoons.
rabid. Um, you know.
Preferably. Um,
Mm,
and no diseased foxes or anything like that.
I'd
So
prefer things that weren't diseased. That would be great.
I could say something about that.
Anyway, I know.
So
So welcome to Living Out Loud, episode
episode
14,
15.
correct? 15.
Episode 15.
Wow. Okay, we have another guest today.
We do.
My dearest friend, Erin Quinn, who has quite interesting history with our theme, and our podcast is about bringing people together who have endured domestic violence or have been close and connected with people who have suffered from domestic violence, or anybody that wants any information or any clinical views. Anybody that wants to come on in. I kind of took your thunder there.
That's okay.
How's your thing?
I don't need thunder.
You don't?
Yeah, got plenty of thunder.
Okay. Plenty of thunder. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Erin Quinn. Come on in. Come on in. There she is. Ah, da, 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 da,
Such
da,
an
da.
introduction.
There you go. There you go.
Hi.
Welcome, Erin.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
So first, we'd like to ask you what, because I have asked people to do this and they've said, no, I think I'm good. So what made you feel like you wanted to do this when you were asked?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. Because I wanted to say that I absolutely love this podcast, and I'm so glad that I'm a part of it right now. I'm so glad, Katie, that you're doing it every week, because when I found out you were going to, I actually told you that I wanted you to, remember? I honestly feel that if there was something like this when I was younger, in my 20s, when, all of my stuff really kind of started, I think I would have probably had a little bit more self-confidence to make some different decisions. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? That's the whole fucking reason
I know.
Yeah.
I started it in the first place. And
I
that
can tell you why too, and I don't want to cut you off. I thought about this a lot
no,
because
go
I was like,
ahead.
what's the difference between this and like a family member or friend giving you advice, or, even a therapist? It's like people that have lived it
Mhm,
and have come out on the other side,
mhm.
right? And then also to have somebody that has like a clinical background, but is also relatable and easy to talk to. So
Right.
you're kind of hitting that where it's like, oh, I can never do therapy, but it's like, but this is a therapist and she's cool. And then, so that stigma's out of the way. And then you have somebody who's been through hell and back and is now, killing it. And you're like, okay, well, even if I'm in a situation now, I can still empower myself, even if and I know you've talked about this, even if it's for a second, a split second glimpse, you're like, and then you can do it. But sometimes you just need that little bit of a push, to kind of just say, yeah, enough with this shit.
Okay, Erin, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna die happy now. And you guys continue.
Don't die. Don't die.
No, you know what? I really appreciate that because
Mhm.
not in a way of like, not
Should
that.
though.
Because that was the reason. And like I said, one person, just one person. It doesn't matter if
Mhm.
it's 250,000 or one. That was
Yep.
my whole point. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Honestly.
I'll
Yeah.
cry. I'll cry later. I'll cry later. I'm an ugly crier. I'm not going to do that.
Same Z.
Um, yes, that's exactly what it's all about. And it hasn't escaped us, Ellen and I, the serendipity that brought us all together, and now you're part of that too, my friend. Yeah, brought you in too. Yep.
Yeah.
We have to
Absolutely.
have like a happy hour of all our people that we've
That's
Well, you know
wonderful.
what?
all
Our
of our
little
people,
shindig,
all
probably
three people.
everybody's I think they're all going to be here except for Kelly, who's in Florida. Leah's going to be here too, I think.
Fun. Let's do it. You with the piano. All right, Katie.
Oh,
hit it.
nice. Good. Okay. All right, Erin.
I'm moving you along now. I'm
Yeah,
moving
look
you.
at you doing it.
Roles
It
reversing
sounds
here. This is
fantastic.
fun.
I know.
51,
Okay.
49.
So Erin,
51.
I know that there have been unfortunately multiple circumstances in your life where you have been in pretty crucial dangerous situations because of partners that you were with. And we talked earlier today a little bit about, you can kind of look at themes, or you can talk about, in particular situations. But anything you want to share with us that has been incredibly impactful, where you had to be in those kinds of situations, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and also, like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, but before we started recording, so full disclosure, I'm probably going to talk about some things that might be a little bit more matter of fact. But because I've been in therapy for so long, I'm just used to talking about them. So, I don't know. We don't put like trigger warnings on these, but I might
No,
talk.
but it is, you have some
Yeah.
pretty extreme circumstances. So if you are uncomfortable with violence and things like that, and it's not something that you really want to listen to, we're probably going to be diving into some of that stuff today.
Yeah. So, I think for me, after reflecting from being in therapy for so long, because my question, and even within the last, year almost, has been, why do I keep going after the same type of person? I'm attracted to people that were, head and edge, boring, safe people. It got to a point where I wasn't attracted to somebody, and boring and safe, wasn't boring at all.
Yeah.
I had to come to realize that being safe and secure and being somebody who's an emotionally available, all of those things that you want in a relationship, I was seeking out people who actually didn't care for me, and I was chasing their love. Obviously because of some childhood daddy issues, which we could talk about that in a whole other episode. But I think from childhood stuff like that, and not having self-confidence, with that stuff, and then some sexual assault stuff when I was younger. And then the way I was treated from my peers because of that, really took a hit on my self-esteem. So my self-worth was very, very low. And when I met people, sometimes they, because they had heard about what happened to me, but thought I was a willing participant. Let me just say that. So
happens way too much still.
yeah. And I was 13, so I didn't even realize or recognize that what had happened to me was not my fault or was not my duty.
Yeah.
So the whole,
you're a baby.
And you're going through puberty the whole night. But so I met a lot of people that had different they acted like they liked me, but they didn't. They thought I was easy, or that whole thing. And so my life kind of shifted to, now I'm seeking out people that essentially are dangerous and not good for me at all. But I just sought so much validation in people because I didn't have any self-worth. And I noticed once I would get in relationships, and then that would just, because if you're in an abusive relationship, and I know you've talked about narcissism a bunch, but the way that they can sort of just grasp you in, but then whittle away at you over time. And so if you're already starting at a lower level of self-worth, man, there's like, it's almost, and it's not impossible, but it feels impossible in the moment to get out of that, because they make you feel like you're never going to be loved. You're never going to find anybody else. You're unattractive, all of the things. And so you feel like, maybe this is what I deserve. Maybe this terrible person in this terrible situation is all I'm ever going to get, because this is what, I deserve. And and so it's just like, it's very interesting for me to look back now and think, and as I'm sure we all do when we get older, but think like, oh, I believed that.
Yeah.
Like I was in that so deep. I didn't talk to my friends. I didn't talk to my family. I was lying for them.
Yep.
I had, you know what I mean? I mean, all of the things. And I was trying to make them look better
Yeah.
just because I was embarrassed. And it's like, you know, if you're starting to realize that you're doing those things, if you're lying for your partner because you're afraid of what people may
Yeah.
think, that's a huge
Mhm.
red flag, you know? And I know with Leah too, you're like, if you're starting to not do things that you love
Yeah.
because your partner isn't supportive, you know? So it's, I know
No,
I'm really rambling.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're perfect. I was just saying, again, I have a unique perspective because I've known Erin since she was 20. So I bore
What is
witness to
she
this
now?
whole
22? Look at her.
Yeah, right. I'm going to be
Look at that
43 next
skin.
month.
Shut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I
girl
stay
never
out of
went in the sun.
What's
She
your
stayed out of
skincare
the sun.
regime? Oh my
That's
God, I
it.
need you to give me your skincare. Your
It's called No
skincare.
Sun or Us.
That's it.
We missed the boat. It's too late. Damage is
Yeah,
done.
it's way too late, baby. But you look great. You look
Oh,
great.
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to interject and I want to share this part with you, Ellen, which I mean, the dichotomy. So, and I brought up the theme quite a bit is destructive people want shiny things, right?
Mhm.
Erin is probably one of the shiniest people I know. She walks into a room and she can just grab the attention of an entire, I've seen her do it. And part of that is a surviving skill. So the better you are at that is a reflection often of what you've gone through. But another reflection of that is the worse the people you bring in is the retraction or the flip side of, like, imagine if that person were good, one of your bad people. They'd be that good, you know, because when once you were able to believe in that part of yourself, which we always all saw, and it was heartbreaking to watch her continue to not see that. And so wonderful when she started to. And it's been a journey. So I just wanted to share the shiny things. This one, walk into an entire bar and she could just be like this and start telling stories and everybody just, so it's dangerous to be that shiny. It's especially at a young age.
Well,
Let's do that
it's
this
funny.
weekend. I'll go to a bar with you, Erin. Let's go. I'm ready.
Oh, we have some
It's just
stories. Yeah.
it's just a coping skill, people. That's all. It was interesting though, because after speaking with my therapist too, because it's been this kind of running joke too in my family, or, you know, calling me like the Black Widow because I would date people. And then, you know, even within the last few years, now if I see a red flag or something, I'm kind of out. Like, I'm like, this
Yeah.
is, you know, and so,
Yeah.
you know, they're like, oh, the heartbreaker and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm just dating. And now I'm making choices where, you know, if I don't see a future or something comes up and I'm like, oh, I've seen that.
Like 6 months. You're only doing like 6 months now. I've seen
If
you,
that,
you know, and you're like,
if
I'm
that.
out.
Like,
Yeah.
you get to the 90-day mark for me, and that's when things really, I think people
Yeah.
start to kind of drop a little bit. And then I'm just like, oh, and again, sad to say, I have enough experience with some things that I can recognize certain behaviors or certain things. And I'm
And
like,
what it's going to become, right? Yeah.
right.
Good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a defense
very good
mechanism.
thing.
That's what that
Well,
is. It's a defense
yeah.
mechanism. And it's a trigger. And you're not wrong.
Well, it's a skill
right?
earned. I mean,
why
that's a
they're called red
badge too.
flags, right? That's why they're called red flags. This
They are.
quick, and it's because I just looked into it today. I had my meeting with my DV ladies today at work, and one of them said to me, "Have you ever looked up the red flag guy on TikTok?
No,
Look him up.
Do it.
I'm gonna do it.
All right, I'll do it.
Hilarious.
I love
but
that I've seen
also dead on. So
Okay.
take a look, because you will enjoy it and also be like,
Erin
wow,
Erin
I'm
was
glad
sending
this
me
guy is doing it.
some narcissist TikToks after we did our first podcast. It was hysterical.
I said
So
that to them today too, and they loved it. Red flag guy.
I got an
y'all.
Oriole. Hold on. There's an Oriole in the backyard, and I don't know why he's in. I got the
How old
wrong
are you,
glasses.
Katie?
Orioles
Dude,
are
I've been-
very aggressive.
She's
Orioles
like,
are
let me-
aggressive, Katie.
She's like, hang on a second. Let me go grab my
Let me get my
binoculars. We're
third
doing a
pair of
podcast
glasses.
You
here.
know what? Nothing. I'm boring now, and you still love me. So you
I
must have
do,
worked
but
through
can we
something.
bird watch maybe on the, you know, I don't know, at another
Erin
time?
says to me last year, real quick story. So when I was like, I don't know, 32, and you were what, 22? We were at a bar. It was after hours. The whole place
When
was
she was
shut down.
12.
She was 12. I was on a table. It was Erotica by Madonna playing. I didn't realize that the table was not attached to the wall. I finished my dance. I crossed my leg and I busted my ankle, right? Just snapped it.
Erotica by Madonna.
Look, I'm giving you snapshots. These are just bullet points.
Oh,
So last year,
Okay.
I show up and I'm not in a cast, but I'm in a brace and stuff. And Erin's like, "What'd you do now?" I'm like, I was walking down the deck with the stain and the grass seed, and I rolled my ankle in the lawn." And Erin was like, "That's what it's come to. Erotica, grass seed."
less glamorous. The
You need
best
to make
part-
up a better story for that one, Katie. Stain and grass seed.
Well,
Come
I
on.
was the best part of that, the first story, the erotica story, was that, you know, and again, we all had a couple pops. We looked down and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Are you all right?" And Katie looks up, and I'm not really a Trekkie. I don't really follow Star Trek, but I feel like it was like a cap. She was like, hold on. This is all she said for the rest of the evening. "Definitely sprained, possibly broken." What? What kind of assessment is that when you're, so we go,
Okay, Captain Kirk.
Do you understand what I mean? "Definitely sprained, possibly broken," and this like weird English. And I was like,
I was like, "Not hammered."
Totally
Cave
wasn't
woman.
because
She
of
was
the
a cave
drinking.
woman.
Was not because of the drinking. It was the table.
right. It was the, and yeah.
Oh, and actually, I hadn't been drinking that much because I knew I had to drive. And then my ex ended
Oh,
up
you
having to
drove
drive.
with a
Who had
broken
been
ankle.
No, I couldn't. I had to pull over and throw up because I went into shock. Yeah, she drove. She should have never drove. Oh,
and I was a
God.
passenger for that whole trip, by the way, which is like,
But yet you stayed
Oh.
in
I'm
pure
here, though,
Buffalo
yeah.
fashion.
That's
My
true.
ankle's fucking broken, but as long as it is, just get
No, I went home,
Not
but I
driving
didn't go to the ER till the next morning. Anyway, super off topic, but
the ER.
anyway,
one of my faves.
it's a good one. That's a story.
And then
Erin and I
also
have some
about how the mighty have
stories.
fallen, how you went from, you know, and then to
I'm
now.
like, and then the dog's licking the deck stain on the carpet, and Jack's running up. He's like, "What?" And I'm like,
Can't be
"Probably gonna
fucking
puke."
good.
Same thing. I'm like, "Might be puking.
You
Gonna need a bucket."
Or really high. He could just
Yeah.
get really high.
And then I said, "Clean up the stain." Miles is eating the stain. Might puke. Gonna puke. It's the same thing. It was the same.
very,
It was very
matter of
I
fact
just-
in an emergency
And
situation.
Liz was like, "Why is this happening on Memorial Day weekend?" And I'm like, "Weekend's not ruined. Weekend's not ruined."
All I need is a little scooter, and I'll be fine. I can take me.
She
You can take
showed
me.
up with
Only
the
sprained.
lawn cart.
Definitely not broken. Let's
It was
continue with our
sprained,
Memorial
definitely
Day
not
weekend.
broken. Yeah.
She knew
Yeah,
that
it's,
right
it's
away.
definitely sprained, not broken. Okay, and scene. Okay, moving on. So, that
Exit
I just
stage
have.
left.
Okay, all right. So, Erin, you've
Mhm.
shared with us some of your progression and where you're at now. Can you share with us a pivotal moment in some of your destructive relationships where there was an epiphany where you're like, "Oh, whoa, I have to stop this cycle now. If I don't, I might not make it through."
You know, I was gearing up for this. And I had told you, Katie, too. I'm like, I don't even know which relationship to talk about because there had been so many with men and women, all in between. And so I was thinking back on, you know, what the final straw was, and it was always something small. Like it wouldn't be the big blowout fights, or, you know, if I was like getting my ass kicked, or if, you know, I got stolen from, or I got cheated on, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It would be like just something that had, you know, it was just enough to send me over the edge, whether it was out for a night and not answering my calls again, you know, or just something that had been repetitive for so long. And then I was like, and this is just another example of, you know, a level of disrespect that I can't, you know, withstand anymore. And so it always took them by surprise, because it was like, where are you going? What do you mean? Like, you can't, you know what I mean? But then I can honestly say, once I get to that point, it's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm gone. I don't, like, you know, come back or, you know, put another thought into it, but it takes me so long to get there. You know, but it was always just something very minor, that maybe even a normal relationship wouldn't even be, you didn't do
Well,
the
you know
dishes. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, your therapist, I'm sure, talked to you about this, but just to explain, a lot of time what happened when you're in a crucial moment, like you're being attacked or you're being abused, stolen from, all those things, you immediately go into fight or flight. So when you're in that place, nobody's making decisions. I mean, you know, you are trying to survive, right? So it's that next moment, that next thing that is kind of benign, but it reawakens that moment. But now you have perspective, and there's a part of you that, you know, often folks are like, well, here's another door, and it's not going to kill me, so I got to go. You know, it's almost like a muscle memory. We're like, oh, I know what happened, and that happened, and I couldn't do anything then, but I can now. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't ever anything that was, you know, one of the big monumental things. It was always just something small. And then I was
Something
just,
little.
that's it. I'm done.
You know what?
Yeah.
It never usually is. Like
Mhm.
the big dramatic moments that people have in their relationships, the blowouts, the highly melodramatic moments actually lead to kind of like making up or being like, oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. And like, oh gosh, emotions were heightened. This is a one-off, right? This is not, it is like those little
Yeah.
insidious daily things that break things.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not these, the blowups. Yeah, I mean, like everybody writes those off as like, had too much drink or, been in a bad mood, had a bad day, blah, blah, blah. We seem to give excuses for those. It's the little daily things that drive you fucking nuts that tend to break
You know,
relationships.
I know I always do this and I'm recognizing this in myself, but I can't help it because I firmly
Dog, you doing the
believe
dog?
that no, no, I was talking about the counter sides of that, right? So it's also not the big glorious relationship moments that keep you in. It's the tiny little consistent things that keep you in. So it's both sides of the coin,
Right.
right? So, for my 50th birthday, like my wife threw like the best thing I could ever amazingly wanted. But if that was like all I ever got, once a year with some big amazing present, I'd be pretty sad. It's the daily things, it's the routine, it's the consistency of affection, it's the thoughtfulness, and those things are can be just as damaging if they're on the reverse. Yeah.
They're withheld or they just don't
Mhm.
happen.
Well, they
I,
become,
Right?
yeah,
I
they
wanted to
also,
say too, that I know when we're talking about the big blowout fights and those big dramatic things, is that sometimes too, depending on who you're with, you can there's gaslighting involved, or
yeah.
you find yourself apologizing for things just because you want it to be over,
Yeah.
all of the things. And so in that moment, like you're saying, you got that fight or flight, you're looking for the easiest way to make that situation
You
stop.
make
And a
it
lot of
make it
times,
safe. Yeah.
right, a lot of times it's not just leaving, because if you're
Mm.
leaving on that note, depending on who you're with, that won't be safe for anyone. So,
Erin, I'd really like your opinion because there's so many pop culture definitions of this, and Ellen and I have talked about this before, because I personally know that you have gone through this, and I'm not a fan of the term gaslighting, but if you could give us your definition of what that is and your experience, because I know you've actually been a victim of that.
yeah, and it's funny. I'm actually at the point now where um I I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, what's happening here is I'm not going to allow myself to be gaslit. Thanks though. Because that's not,
There you are.
yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
just, if you're upset and you want to communicate about things, that's one thing. But a lot of times I've also grown to realize, well, first let me say this, and then I'll get to that in a second. I look back at all the people I've been with that have been abusive, and I look at now, because of where I am in my life, with my career and just my, my friends
Your
and
skin and your
experience
skin. I mean,
and my
yeah,
milky white Victorian complexion.
geez.
Just kidding. Anyway,
Porcelain doll, porcelain doll. Sorry.
but I all I see now are victims of their own circumstance, people that have their own mental health issues that have not looked at their shit. And I know that's like one of our favorite phrases, right? And I don't pity them. I don't give them an excuse, but I look back on, oh, now I see why that happened. So you just had some trauma of your own that's unresolved. And so what that happens is now you're an abuser. Now, I don't think that that's an excuse, obviously, because
Just a fact.
you have
Yeah.
choices, right? That you can handle it. But I look back and try to think, like, what would cause somebody to be like this? How could they possibly? But then I'm thinking, oh, well, now that I'm really starting to evaluate what your childhood was like or what your previous relationships were like, how deeply insecure you really are. And you saw that when people are around me, that maybe I got more attention than you, or that when you met me, I had more self-confidence, and you, like you're saying, you wanted that, or whatever the case may be.
Wanted a piece of that.
Yeah. And so I want to make it like very clear. I don't like, it's not excuses for that behavior, because I feel like everybody should take accountability and responsibility. I haven't met anybody who hasn't had trauma. So everybody should take some time to kind of look within whichever way they want to sort of handle that. But I don't think it's fair then to take that out on other people. And so I think as an adult, especially, you should take the steps necessary to get yourself better for yourself, but also everyone around you. Having said that, when I recognize certain behaviors like gaslighting, I know that it's almost like I can see it and be like, okay, but what's this really about? That's my favorite line now. Because a lot of times when people are angry, they're not really angry. They're insecure, or they're feeling vulnerable, or they're sad, or whatever.
Anger is a defense response. Yeah, it's
always
anger is more often than not fear. And
yeah. And I'm like, but so I'm in it, but I never saw this before. I just took it so personally and took it. And understandably, I was like young and I had my own unresolved trauma. But now I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here, because I also used to want to get the ickiness out inside and would spew it onto other people. Right? Because it's easier just to get it out that way. So when I see people gaslighting me and I'm like, what's this really about? It's not, you're trying to put the blame on me, but really you're feeling icky. So why don't we
right. So would you, that's actually the good, so would you call it
hurt people?
Yeah.
Right.
Hurt people who are hurt people. Yeah. Would that be a simple definition in your mind, that it's deflecting blame, that it's just gaslighting is blaming somebody else because you're not willing to take accountability for whatever it is that you indulged in?
Yeah, I think, and again, I like not willing or very uncomfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? It seems like people that have had and again, I always found myself too in relationships where I was the most emotionally mature intentionally. I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, well, I could always be the one that's like, oh yeah. But, now if I'm dating somebody who I would like to match with, let's kind of have that conversation where, or if you're uncomfortable with how you're feeling, it's much easier to deflect. We all know this, right? It's just like, but a lot of times I've noticed now, especially like recently, I don't take it personally, but I give the reminder that like what you say, people don't forget. And that if you're feeling icky and you just want to get it out, I also understand that and can identify with that, but maybe we can find a healthier way to go about that, because I know what we're talking about right now. I'll own my shit. I always admit when I'm wrong, and I'm a Leo, so that's saying some
an Irish Leo.
I'm an Irish Leo. Normally, I'm like, it's aggressive, but
I'm an Irish Cancer. I'm a fucking disaster. So like,
wow, that's a song lyric. I'm an Irish Cancer. I'm a fucking disaster.
Yeah, I'm dating a Cancer now too. Oh, she cries at everything. It's so sweet. The toilet paper is so soft, and I'm like, holy shit!
Okay,
that
I'm not that bad. All right, like
You're crying
I don't
right
cry
now.
in toilet paper.
bad. She's crying about not crying. I don't even know why you'd say that. I'm not sensitive, Erin. What the? I kid. But yeah, I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, and that took a long time. So I can say that proudly because it's taken some work, because it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to just say, I don't like the way I feel. I might have fucked up there, but you know what? Well, if you didn't do that, I wouldn't have reacted that way.
Yeah. And what do you think of that? Yeah, I would share an interesting story just that reflects on that. I've got a client, a couple that I'm working with right now, and he did some stuff he shouldn't have done. He's trying to say she did stuff she shouldn't have done when all she did was talk to an old friend, right? So it was just every moment, and she was just, they've been together like 30 years, and she was just, this is all about him and he won't take accountability. So I handed it back to him, and I said, why won't you let her just take a look at your phone? That was the agreement we all agreed to, and blah, 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 because she had an attitude. And I said, could you see where she might feel like you were hiding something? I mean, even the way that, and then he starts yelling at me, and I'm like, I don't think you're mad at me. Yeah, I'm mad at you. I'm like, nah,
No, you're
no,
doing
I
it.
don't think so. Yeah,
You're
like you're doing the thing. You try to do it over there, and I try to, and I said, and frankly, this is one of the things that I think, like you're saying, Erin. I said, frankly, I don't care. And if you have that kind of objectivity, not that you shouldn't be more, emotionally involved with your friends and partners and all that, but if you
Yeah.
can separate yourself from the reactivity, it's
Right.
actually it was really good for him too, because he was like, oh, it's not going to work, and in relationships, it's the same way. If you go, wow, I don't know where you're going, but you're not pushing my button. I don't, yeah, really good road to take.
That's absolutely, and even like with the relationship I'm in now too, we both kind of sometimes will catch ourselves with what's this really about? And I'm just like, oh, you cut to the core of me, and you're using my own shit against me.
Yeah.
I'm not mad that you didn't do the dishes. I'm mad because you haven't been spending time with me lately, and I'm feeling, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
yeah,
it's stupid. We're people. We're humans. We make mistakes.
Mhm.
We sometimes we act like children because we just want to be loved and held. And I don't know, just squeeze you.
Yeah.
And we sometimes
Love
go
you,
back
squeeze you
to,
and call you George. You remember that one?
yeah. Because I think sometimes
I
too, we
feel
work
left
back
out. I don't know what that is. Is that a movie?
Cartoon when we were little.
cartoon, where he's
Don't
like,
you love you and squeeze you and call
Yeah.
you George? Remember that?
okay, I'll send it to you.
Wait, it's now, there's like a little itch in my brain that's,
Yeah, it's like it was like
it was a
crazy.
Looney Tune. It was a Looney Tune, like the big
Yeah.
Kapuga guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And love you and squeeze you, and oh, you're just
Call
like,
you
oh,
George. Yeah.
yeah.
I love you and squeeze you and call you George.
Not
It was something
sure
like
how
that, right?
appropriate it is in this day and age, but it was cute back then.
Super
Mhm.
cute. I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, let me
You were
ask you this.
saying that like when you said like, oh, I'm mad at you for not doing the dishes. No, it's not really not. I'm mad at you for not spending time with me.
Cutting
I'm mad
to the
at you, like
core.
that. Yeah,
Oh.
like getting to like the core.
Yes, and I think that when you're in those moments where you either don't know how to handle it properly or you're uncomfortable with it, you divert back to being a kid. Like you go back to how you were as a kid, where it was like, what can I do to get attention? Or what can when I felt
Well,
this
do
way-
you know what that is? Do you know why that happens?
Go ahead.
No, if you do you know?
No, I want you to explain. You're gonna
We're,
explain it.
we're waiting for you.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
happens is, as we know, you look at all the ACEs and the trauma and all that stuff. So your brain is affected by trauma in its developmental stage. So what we do, if we choose to, is we unlearn that behavior through CBT and other cognitive behavioral therapy and other different types of tools to literally change the structure of the brain. So I use the imagery a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme, but there's this great picture. It circulates online sometimes. It's a picture of a tree with a bike inside of it, like an antique bike, and the tree has grown around it. Yes, Ellen?
I'm waiting to see what you're gonna say.
Oh, so we adapt to the foreign object, right? And the foreign object is the maladaptive behavior that we learned, right? We don't know any different. So when you are in high stress dynamics that are threatening your sense of emotional safety, all those new skills just kind of fall away. And so then you go back to that lizard brain, and so then you have to work extra hard when you are emotionally stimulated in a negative way, sometimes in a positive way too. You just like, if you're real excited for Christmas, I still come down and go, I'm so excited for Christmas, because it all goes
Crazy.
away.
I
All
can
your digging.
totally see you doing that.
I do, yeah. But now it's more about, because I'm excited for them to open gifts. But the point being, if you can master that concept of accessing your new skills when you're emotionally heightened and threatened, man, that's like Buddha. I mean, that's how it rocks and rolls.
Self-actualization moment in the
Yeah.
Maslow hierarchy.
Yeah. And that's partially why I love
Maslow's hierarchy. I mentioned that
Oh,
earlier, but only on
you
level
did.
1. I did.
I like to
I'm
talk
not as
about
dumb
never
as
go.
I look, my friends. I'm really not.
Not just a pretty face over.
Takes a lot of money to look
Anyway.
this cheap. No, so like
Look this cheap.
Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton. It's
I
Dolly
know,
Parton.
love her.
You're
Love
quoting
her.
the big guns. Ooh,
I know,
no
you're
pun
really
intended.
pulling them
I
out
said
there.
the big
Pull them
gun.
out. I can pull them out. No, but like I think this is like
Oh, what kind of podcast is this? Okay, I'm here for it.
you've
either way.
watched it,
Oh.
I think like hearing you say like all the things that you said, like the realizations you've had, and also saying 2 partners that you've had, like you said, you were called the Black Widow, right? I don't know. Why do I have to put labels like that on it? Like, oh no, I'm making a decision for myself. This doesn't work for me. And I can see it's not going to work. And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut ties, right?
What's another
And I'm
gender
gonna
stigma,
build
right? Yeah.
because I know it's gonna go pear-shaped or south. And I've seen this and I know the pattern, right? Like my
Mhm.
one sister says, trust patterns first,
Mhm.
action second, and words last, right?
Mhm.
When you see the pattern, you say to yourself, I know where this is going.
Yeah, don't deny it.
And
That's why
I'm
data
going to
is
take
such a good
myself
thing.
out,
Yeah.
right?
Facts. You
Boundary,
need
take myself
facts.
out.
Yeah.
That's right. And she recognized it because of her experience. So no, it's not you being a Black Widow, although I do actually love that imagery.
This woman
The movie
slays
was
them.
Deborah Winger.
Trail
but
of broken hearts.
Yeah, just a
Trail
trail,
of broken
right?
hearts.
It's like, come on.
lady, man killer, man eater. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, it's not being a man eater, a man killer, a Black Widow. What it is, and that's very interesting that those are the terms that are applied when someone's making a decision to get out of a relationship.
Yeah,
that doesn't
right?
work.
That's totally what I was thinking. Yeah.
So you're not a Black Widow. What you are is an educated female who has experience and wisdom from the situations that she's been in that have abused her or dishonored her, and you're not going to allow it to happen anymore.
Yep.
So when you recognize it, you say, thank you. This was great. Wish you well.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great life.
I almost have a speech down for it, but yes,
Do
you're
you?
exactly right. Yeah, it
Well,
was
that
lovely
does make you
meeting
sound
you.
like a Black Widow.
I know. I'm just saying.
It's been nice enough to witness, to see Erin go through this transformation. And there had been a couple women in the last couple of years where how quickly you caught it. It was really neat to watch because I saw it coming. And I was like, even before I had the opportunity to talk to you about my impression, you were done, and you mentioned something which I wanted to, in the throes of the destruction of relationships, you mentioned, you cut off your family, your friends and stuff like that. You made excuses for them. What do you feel by being out of those dynamics? What have you gotten back? You gave away so much of who you were. And I know we learned from all our experiences and all of that, but choosing not to engage in those types of relationships, what do you feel like you've gotten back?
Everything.
Great answer.
myself again. I think that my relationships with other people have strengthened because of it. I also think now that I'm more honest or forthcoming about my previous experiences too. And like, maybe this is why I acted the way I did. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sure, I wasn't ready to at the time, because a lot of times too, and this is human nature, if I'm in a situation where I know I shouldn't be in, it's embarrassing for me to have to tell other people and then have them tell me something that I already know. I always use this comparison. So you have a woman who's being abused by her partner, and she believes that they love them, that they love her, right? Oh, well, he or she's sorry, they really love me. And you feel sorry for her because you're like, oh, sweetheart, that's not love though. But she doesn't know. And so almost ignorance is bliss in a way, because it's almost like the full capacity of the situation she's in might not be realized. But for me, I was always the person who knew that they didn't love me and that what they were doing was hurtful, and I still stayed. And so that made me feel even shittier inside, because I was like, I'm still incapable of finding the strength to leave. And yet I know deep down that this isn't love and what they're doing is wrong and that they don't really care about me. But I'm still staying. And I always thought that those people in those situations, because I was one of them, I really wished that those were the people that could find help the most. Because it's one thing if you are the person who is in denial about someone's behavior, but when you know what they're doing is wrong and for whatever reasons you stay, which we all end up doing at some point. And I don't want to generalize it, because I'm speaking for myself.
It's true.
But it's you if you get to a position where you're being abused, it's usually because someone is taking advantage of the fact that you can't find strength within, or don't believe in yourself enough to recognize and say, this is not okay.
Boy, yeah, you just
And-
nailed it. That's exactly it. Yep.
And even if deep down, in your core, it's not, you still don't have the strength to say that to someone, whether
And-
you're afraid of vulnerability, you're afraid of being alone, or whatever the case may be.
Or they've continued, like you said early
Yeah.
on, Erin, where you said, or like I call it death by a thousand cuts, but chipping
Mhm.
away. So, and Ellen and I have talked, people can come in and all you need is a little bit of self-doubt. You poor baby, were like you said, your stump was already low, but it doesn't take much if they're good to start chipping away, chipping away, chipping away, and then you start to second guess yourself. And so the smaller the lower your self-esteem is when you go into those dynamics, the more dangerous it is for you, and the more difficult it is to get out, because it's literally like trying to pick up dead weight up. You just throw try to get up and get out, and the shame and the embarrassment and all of that. And I'm just so proud of you. I just really am. I really am.
Not to sound like a jerk here, but I'm proud of myself.
Good.
Like,
That's not a
You
jerk.
sounding like a
Well,
jerk.
I don't know, because that's kind of, I don't like to be all like,
You don't look in the mirror every day and say, I'm proud of myself and I have great skin. I would.
the skin thing, man. Holy crap. Oh no,
She does. It looks exactly like that too. It's not even a filter.
Seriously, it's like a friggin' like Pond's cold cream commercial. But why wouldn't you have that on your mirror every morning? I'm proud of myself.
I actually have something on my fridge that
Let's see
I'm
it.
gonna go grab real quick.
Go get
Oh,
it.
go grab it.
Grab the fridge thing. Grab the fridge thing.
And
I
wrote,
that was quick. That was quick.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen. I wrote this down a while ago, and I just felt like, because I'm big on like personal affirmations, but I wrote this down, and so it's on my fridge, and every day I look at it, and it says, because also giving yourself compliments is really hard. And so I implore everyone who is listening, watching, whatever, that you should do something similar, because obviously, okay. Ready?
Were you raised Catholic by any chance?
No,
Erin
my
Quinn?
family's Irish Catholic, and I was raised Protestant. You can imagine. This is why I'm in turmoil. Okay, so
My mother was Protestant. My dad was Catholic. I feel your pain.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same situation. All
Go
right.
ahead.
I am creative and kind and compassionate and funny and smart. This is not grammatically correct. And beautiful.
Well, that's going to bother me then.
And I matter.
Mhm.
Which
That's
knows the theme.
lived. Yeah.
I know that's the theme here too, but this is really, look at, this is really what I wrote down.
That's what you said.
So I'm like, you know, I was writing this down when I was feeling good, and you know what, damn it, I stick by all of that.
Every
And
day.
you are all those things,
You
even
know?
when you thought you weren't. Yep.
Right.
Every day.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah.
Good
So
for
that's
you.
what I mean. Like, nobody's going to take that away from me, and I don't give a shit who you are.
No. And if not for nothing, man, that's the shit that you got back, because that was always you, and you let people take it away from you like these little gifts, and you let them just pluck them off of you because you didn't know better, you know? You just didn't have the skills yet.
You know
And
what else I
now,
wanted to say too, because now that I'm remembering, when we're talking about me
Yes,
being in these
please.
relationships for a short amount of time, and then me kind of being like, you know, it was really great meeting you, but I just don't think we're compatible. It's not like
Sure.
I'm calling them out on what I may see as a,
Super fair assessment.
because
Yeah.
it's also been such a short amount of time. But oftentimes these people that I would be dating, like, they would not be okay with
Yeah.
me letting
Wouldn't
them
turn
go.
them. Yeah. Wouldn't turn them.
And my therapist put it into a really interesting perspective for me, because she said, especially when you first meet me, I'm energetic, you know, I'm the life of the party, I'm fun. And I'm not saying that I'm like, not like
No,
that, you know,
you're an
throughout.
incredibly shiny thing. Yes. And you
But
and I have to, the shiny thing. Yeah.
so for people that, and again, if I'm deciding not to date you, I'm going to go ahead and guesstimate that you probably have some things that are maybe unresolved,
And that's okay.
which is fine, but I just don't want to date you.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's all right.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's okay. You can
Yeah.
be independent and not look at your shit, but I just won't be here for it. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
what she was saying though is that people get attached to the idea of me and the feeling that I give, and it's almost
Mhm.
like an addiction,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh,
Oh,
you're
you're
so
like a
fun to
drug,
be
Erin.
around. Like, I'm always like bright and, you know, like you're saying, shiny. And then it's like, you can't take my bright, shiny thing away.
Yeah.
You can't
And
take
then
it would be
and
this
one of the things,
desperation I would get. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, this is even more of a turn off.
Yeah, because now you're just feeding off my energy. And then what I used to watch happen with you too is like the minute that you would need, you know, as high as your highs go, your lows go as low too. I mean, it's all
Right.
so the minute you sought solace in one of those partners, man, they were just pissed. They were pissed when you were down. So you got no comfort, no support, because you
Oh,
were not
right.
giving them the shiny electric Erin, you know,
Yeah, like
and
you can't have a bad day. Like I always got. And one of my favorite things that you've ever said to me, Katie, is that I love on Erin, but I love off Erin even more.
oh, always have. Yeah.
So, you know, because whenever I'm in even a social situation or I'm meeting people new or it's a new relationship, you know, it's very easy for me to be fun and happy and bright. And that's definitely a part of me. But there's also another part of me that's more introverted and reflective and quieter and deeper. And I don't share that side of me with many
Yep.
people.
And I think
Because of how I get treated.
because of how you get treated. And I think, you know, when we first met, I think that that's actually what bonded us so closely, was like we put the two of us in a room and that was a party. Everybody wanted to, you know, and I could be on stage and I could do all the things and all the stuff, but we had the best times when it was just you and me alone being silly, you know?
Yes.
And
Like
I
falling
think it
off
was
tables and breaking your fucking ankle.
well, I've got some video
to a soundtrack, by the way.
Right.
Oh, you know, but I think being treasured for the whole you, and I feel so blessed that to hear that from you, and I also was able to hear that from Leah, and for me that's so helpful, because during those times in my life I wasn't in the best space ever, you know, either. I mean, we were all going through stuff, and to know that that you felt that way is so important to me. And I know there were very little people that you trusted at that point in your life, so I'm very honored and I love you.
I love you too. Yeah. And
I'm
even,
glad you came. Like, go ahead.
no, I just was going to say, because even when I was going through all of my shit and I was on a path that wasn't good, you know, Katie would say, like, she is the only person that could call me out on my shit in such a loving, respectful way. Like, hey, you're going through it right now, and that's your journey, and you have to do that. I'm always going to be here for you, but I just can't have you come around right now. I have a family, and
Yeah.
so I never argued. I'd be like, no, dude,
No.
I
And
feel like
it was,
because I knew. I mean, I
you
knew
know,
I was fucked
but
up.
and it was just like, you're kind of fucked up right now. I go,
You're
that's
fucked up
okay.
now.
I'll be
Yeah.
with you, but I can't have you
Right.
around the kids right now. And you were like, I know. I'm like,
I was like,
okay.
I
So when
know.
you're done, then you can come back over to the house. You know,
A
and
couple
there would
months
be
later,
some,
I'm like, dude, I fucked up. And you're like,
you're
yeah,
like, oh, yeah, come on in. I'll
coming
make you
over
a
for
burger.
dinner?
Come on.
You really did. You really did.
Yeah.
Literally, I
Yeah.
know.
But isn't that about what it is with going through the journey with people and watching them heal and grow, all of us, when you
Yeah,
have
but I
that
don't
kind
have
of,
other friends that I can equally say would be as receptive to that message or that would give that message.
yeah, but you did
You know
not,
what I mean?
you burned some serious bridges, my friend. You did. I mean, not that I wouldn't say that those people probably deserve to have the bridges burned, but yeah,
Right.
but I mean, you made a choice too, to trust me. And that was up to you. You could have burned that bridge. You could have looked at me and were like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. And you were in destructive mode.
Which I did a lot.
Yeah, and you had destructive people around you. But it takes two. And I know now we're just having
Always.
a love fest, but um
Are we
it's
having a love fest?
it's having a little love fest.
Well,
But
because I
A
think
love
it goes
fest,
back
the
to
Black Widow? This is a new one.
it just goes back to not wanting to admit when you're making mistakes when you're in
It's
them.
hard.
But
Accountability, yeah.
because then being afraid that people are going to leave you.
Yeah,
Or
I
not
did the
gonna
same
talk to
thing, and
you.
I've only touched on it, a little bit here and there with my relationship with my ex. But in my own way, I did the same thing, and you guys all hung in there with me too. So
Yeah.
we all do the things.
Yeah, we've all had that. And I appreciate,
Mhm.
I've always said, I appreciate when people leave and I appreciate when people stay.
Yeah, I
Shows
like
me, it
that.
shows me exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Erin, we might need to have you back on because your insights are so profound, and we might need to dig deeper into your psyche.
And your
And if you would be,
spiderhood.
What?
and your spider, and your perfect skin.
This was tiger. I don't know
Not
why
your
that's
perfect
not a
skin.
spider.
Oh,
But yeah.
eight legs.
Is that mine?
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know. It's jazz hands, it's spider hands.
Jazz hands, but like
Isn't that
spider
Spider-Man's
jazz.
like this?
Yeah.
Spider jazz hands.
They
All
have
right.
legs, for Christ's sake. Okay.
Yeah. So sign us off, Ellen. Say your things.
You matter, but Erin already covered that.
She did.
So here we are. Thank you so much, Erin. This was wonderful. I'm so glad that you came on. And we definitely want you back. And we definitely want Kelly back. I mean, we're expanding our
Yeah, and I think we'll even do a
circle.
whole group thing where we have, I think the only person you and Leah don't, and I've got more guests lined up. So we've got all kinds of things coming up. But then when, before we'll have to do guest group episodes where everybody gets to see each other and talk. And
I believe so. And we're going to have to kind of work that out because it won't be through Zoom. I think it should be like, not that we have studio space because we're definitely not on that
we actually
level,
do. My wife has basically a studio at her office. It's all soundproof and everything. The training room over at Endeavor. Yeah, we could use that.
True.
You waited like 8 episodes to like
Well,
bring that up?
she bought the old Spectrum building, so there's a lot of they saved all the soundproofing stuff and made it into a training room and stuff, so we could definitely use that space and do it.
Wish I could buy a building, but if she can, I'm okay with it. All right. Thank you so much, Erin. This was awesome. You're definitely coming back on because we're not done. This is how I feel
Yeah.
about these conversations. We're not done.
There's
Like
so
I
much,
feel like
yeah.
this was just like scratching the surface. It takes us into
I
so
feel
many
the
different
same
areas.
way. Yeah,
really
and the
does.
fact that you're so far along in so far along in so much therapy in your journey, the level of insight in regard to why you go back, how not to go back, how to be prepared to move on to other relationships, how to trust your own sense of red flags, things like that. Love to talk to you more about that stuff.
I'm here.
And the skincare.
And
the
my
skincare.
full skincare regime. Yes, of course.
For those of us who are 10 years older than you, baby.
I was just so glad when she finally turned 40. you know, because I was like, thank God,
Why?
at least because
It
you were
was
just
really
seemed
like
like
her
you were always
30th
such,
birthday.
because it was always 10 years, you know, so it was just like always like
Yeah,
she's
but she's
still
never
baby,
actually
she's
really
still.
gonna catch up, Katie. You know, like
I'm never
it's
gonna
not
catch
like
But it feels better now because I think I stopped aging. I hit my emotional maturity level and it's still kind of 12-year-old boy with a lot of emotional intelligence. So I
we've
think
plateaued. We've plateaued. And everyone
on
now
that
can just
note, I'm
catch
going to
up.
go make fart noises at my son.
Do one for me, will you?
I will. I'll say Erin's this one for you.
All right. On that note,
Bye, ladies.
we'll see you
Bye,
next
thank you
time.
so much.
Bye. Look
See
good.
ya.
I'm ending.
Bye.
Got to do a good face. I'm ending.